Hey everyone, and welcome back to the DC Films Podcast. This is episode 35. I know it's been a while since you guys last actually heard from us. Actually, it's been just over 2 months since our last official episode. But as we've stated previously, it's really hard to get everyone in this podcast together. Especially like with our lives being the way they are. So obviously we're on the cusp of Aquaman being released here in the States. So this episode is primarily going to be discussing, for those of us who haven't seen the movie, because Artyom and Fatma have seen the movie. But Fatma won't be here. Artyom is here, so he'll just sound his thoughts. But so those joining me today, we're also going to be discussing like our hopes for the film, what we expect to see. It's kind of like our last thoughts and predictions before we all see the movie in the next week and a half or so. So for those of us, for those of you guys here today, if you guys want to each go around and introduce yourselves to the listeners.
Hey everyone, my name is Artyom and I'm Grey Kung Lao on Tumblr.
Hi, I'm Rebecca and I'm Endeavor Network on Tumblr.
I'm Speed of the Oppressed on Tumblr until it begins its December 17th purge.
Yeah, so we're all here today. We might have some people joining us. We'll see. We haven't really heard back from anyone, so right now it is just the four of us, or five of us. Four of us. So obviously, as I mentioned earlier, Artyom has already seen Aquaman. So I want to preface that by saying that Al, Rebecca, and I have not seen the movie yet. But, so, to kind of kick off this, without going into spoilers, Artyom, if you want to kind of give us your overall thoughts on Aquaman and how you felt about the movie, what you enjoyed, what you might have maybe didn't enjoy, what are your overall thoughts on the movie, if you want to do like your own little review?
Well, after Justice League, I was very, very pessimistic about DCEU in general, so I expected all of the worst things that could have happened. And maybe this is the reason why I liked Aquaman a lot, because none of my fears came to reality. Everything was outstanding. I was pretty much in a state of wow throughout the entire movie. The first 10 minutes of this film, it has so much soul, and pretty much first 10 minutes pretty much shows how the entire movie will be in a sense of tone and action and pretty much everything. It was a journey, and a whole journey, and Aquaman is like a mixture of The Mummy of '99 with Brendan Fraser and Rachel Weisz, Star Wars prequels, because the entire thing underwater will blow you away with how epic and massive it will feel. It's literally underwater Star Wars. And there are some bits of Man of Steel regarding thematics and how serious this movie takes itself, even though there are some silliness, some jokes, but you have to understand, you don't need to look at Aquaman like it has to be like Zack Snyder's movie. No, this movie belongs to James Wan. He has his own vision for this character and for this universe, and it's okay. We have to be happy that DCEU has a variety in tone and how it presents itself. So this is pretty much it. The movie was amazing. I expected the worst, and I got everything and above my expectations, so it was amazing.
Well, that's really good to hear. Obviously, so since our last episode, obviously, and since our Justice League commentary, the social media reactions and the critic reviews have all dropped. So as of right now, actually I have to go look it up. As of right now, the Rotten Tomatoes score is like in its 70s, but let me give an actual score. So as of right now, with 81 reviews, it's at 75% on Rotten Tomatoes. For most DCEU fans, we don't care. But for those who still want to know, that's where it sits. Honestly, I expected that. I was maybe expecting a little bit higher. But I think for this movie, that's actually pretty good. Well, considering how critics feel about DCEU movies. So for me, like, I'm glad you enjoyed it. Like, once I saw DCEU fans enjoying it as much as they did, that relieved a lot of my fears. Because of course, like, with Justice League last year, when everyone was saying, "Oh my God, this movie is so much fun," and like, finally a DCEU movie that's fun and funny and blah blah blah. And then obviously Justice League turned out to be a huge steaming pile of garbage. So going into Aquaman, I didn't necessarily have any like trepidation as far as like what James Wan is going to be able to do. Any worries came on Warner Brothers as far as like, well, were they going to chop up the movie and turn it into something that's not James Wan's vision? Were they going to lighten up Arthur more? Were they going to do this? Were they going to do that? And hearing you and other people talk about it really relieves a lot of my worries. At least the few that I had. And I'm still excited. I see the movie in about 6 days, so just under a week. So I'll be seeing it a lot later than a lot of people. So it's still early because it doesn't release officially until the 21st here in North America. But yeah. So my question to you is, so obviously you talk about a lot of things you enjoyed. Without getting into too spoilery of details, what were maybe some things that you think either you didn't like or maybe could have been worked on a little better in the movie?
Honestly, I don't think that I came up with some. I literally liked everything. Well, the jokes, they turned me off in a sense, like. Sometimes it felt like it was okay, but sometimes it felt like it was forced just to please the critics. But overall, it doesn't stand in a way to enjoy the entirety of this film. So it was amazing in every single aspect. Like, at least for me, like the music, the characters, the visuals. And action, especially action. Action was so intense, so pumping, so filled with adrenaline. It was intense to watch. Like, I was literally holding my seat in theater while watching Black Manta and Aquaman fight. It was something.
So here's my question. So obviously with this movie, it's the same composer who did Wonder Woman. Do you think this score of his was better than Wonder Woman, or how do you think it compares to his Wonder Woman score?
I think it's on the level. It definitely, the most surprising thing to me is that it doesn't feel like any of the previous soundtracks that were done in DCEU. It's like it's a whole new thing, and you won't feel like you heard it somewhere before. Like it was with Justice League, but we all know why that happened.
Yeah.
So, but Aquaman's score is like completely original, and there will be some themes that you will remember, especially Black Manta's theme. When he appears on the screen and the music starts, it's just wow.
Because I'm a huge score junkie, so that's why, like, as soon as they announced that, I think his name is Rupert Gregson-Williams, who composed the movie, I was excited. Wonder Woman isn't necessarily my favorite score of the DCEU, but it does enough to at least make the movie feel like it has good emotional beats. It does a lot to honor what Hans did as far as creating the Wonder Woman score. So I'm just glad that they're keeping some of the same composers in-house, because I think that was obviously one of Justice League's big mistakes, was bring on Danny Elfman, someone who was never going to honor the work previously done in the films. He was only going to honor his own work, and like, yeah, he used John Williams' score, but I think that's only because Danny Elfman has always been trying to emulate John Williams with his movies. Like, like, my worries from Justice League, as far as the score goes, like, luckily we're never really there. So I'm glad to hear that you like the score and the action and stuff. So for Alan and Rebecca, do you guys have any questions for Artyom as far as like what he thought of the movie, or what do you guys any questions for him?
Nope, I'm good.
Nah, I think I got my answers already asked.
Okay. So So to kind of now segue into like what we as fans who haven't seen the movie are expecting. Honestly, in the last few weeks, I've seen so much more that's gonna get me so much more excited for the movie, and the visuals and the story alone. And guys, one of my favorite things that's come out, I'm like, seriously, Ocean Master looks so freaking fantastic in this movie. And honestly, and that was one of the aspects of the comics that I wasn't sure they were going to be able to adapt well, was his comic book look, at least that of the new 52 version anyway. And I think they pulled the look off so incredibly well. That and Aquaman's comic book look, like those both could have looked terrible and cheesy and really out of place in the universe that Zack established. So it's so nice seeing like the looks and feel of Atlantis and like in the looks of these comic book characters feeling like they fit within like a quote unquote realistic world. You know?
Yeah. I think my expectations for this film was a few things, and I think the two things that I was mostly concerned that I was really looking forward to was how believable Atlantis was going to look. Like, how were they going to establish how Atlantis looks? Because, you know, James Wan is working with, he's working with, like, comic book source material, of course, but he is the first person to ever be able to bring Atlantis into reality. Like, this is a very big achievement for Aquaman. So I was so curious as to how he was going to be able to adapt, you know, Atlantis to look like this hustling, bustling sort of kingdom without, you know, treading too deep into something maybe Game of Thrones related or Star Wars related. And I feel he's found a mix of both of those things and has been able to really craft this colorful and amazing underwater kingdom. The other thing that I was also thinking about was, well, two more things I was thinking about. It was the horror aspect that James Wan said that he kind of slipped into Aquaman. So actually, I gotta ask that question to Aaron. Is that how you? I'm sorry. Is that how you pronounce the name? Aaron? Huh?
Artyom.
What?
Artyom.
Artyom. Okay, I'll remember that. So, like, Artyom, that's actually a question I wanted to ask. How is the horror aspect put into place? Is it just in the trenches? Or is there like a little bit more without really, you know, spoiling anything, of course?
Yeah, there will be like a particular sequence that gave me a Lovecraft vibe. You know, Call of Cthulhu and this stuff, there will be a sequence that will give you the vibes of this particular story.
Okay, cool. And the last thing, the fight scenes. Like, that's something I was really curious about, how they were going to adapt, you know, the fight scenes underwater. Was it going to be similar to Man of Steel with the flying, but, you know, with underwater and with Trident?
Yes, it was pretty much like that. I was very pleased with action because it felt exactly like Man of Steel in this regard. It was as epic, as powerful, and as intense as Superman fighting Zod. It was awesome.
Oh, thank God. Okay. Well, that's my worries completed. Now I can watch the movie without any fear.
Okay, so I have another follow-up question. So obviously, I think I know the answer to this question. Do they ever bring up the air bubble conversation from Justice League, and are there any air bubble discussions on Aquaman?
No, they speak without bubbles, and it was done like very clever because there was some, you know, change. There is some changes in their tone when they speak underwater. There's like a filter. You will hear some filter put on their voices when they talk underwater, and it was a clever thought, I think. And yes, the movie feels like when Mera and Arthur interact, it feels like that bubble dialogue never happened. So I guess James Wan was following up indeed Zack Snyder's Justice League.
Yes,
So,
I think what you're saying, I think that basically confirms that. I mean, we already kind of knew this, but that the air bubble scene was a reshoot from Jaws. Because honestly, and then that's the thing, because like James kind of like made fun of that scene when it first came out. It was like, oh, there's not gonna be any air bubble talk in my movie. So I think if that was Zach, he wouldn't have said that. But I think because it's Joss, you know, I think that's why he said the way he did. And that's nice, because honestly, the whole air bubble scene, like, I didn't think it was terrible, but, like, it just felt a little weird considering, like, in the comics, like, they don't need that to talk. But I was curious to see, like, how, like the mechanics of them actually talking underwater would work, considering, like, in real life, you can't really talk underwater because it's just all bubbles. But it's nice to know that they actually have, like,
Mary is still able to create these kind of bubbles, but for a whole other reasons, not to talk.
Okay. Oh, good enough. Now, as far as like Easter eggs and stuff go, obviously I don't want you to spoil anything, but do they like set up anything with like future characters that maybe we haven't?
Don't. That's a big question.
I'm not asking who he's setting up. I'm asking, do they set up certain characters for the future?
Let me just say this. There is only one after credits scene. You know, there is first half of credits is animated in Aquaman style, and when these kind of credits end, there will be a scene that will set up a sequel, and you will like it, I think.
Okay. Yeah, because I know, like a lot of people asking, like, oh, how many credit scenes are there? And it's just the one, right? Just the mid-credit scene.
Yes.
Okay.
It's one.
Okay, good. Okay, that's good.
So.
Oh, you go ahead.
Okay. Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Rebecca,
I guess I'll go. One last thing to ask, and it's real quick. Jason mentioned that this was supposed to be, like, this Aquaman movie takes place after, you know, Zack Snyder's version of Justice League. So, when you seeing this movie, do you feel like the tone of this movie probably would have been what we would have got from Zack's version of Justice League?
To be honest, I don't know. I think this movie pretty much changed the outfit for Mera, but you know, Zack Snyder likes his armor, and both Mera and Aquaman wear a lot of armor in Justice League. But in Aquaman, all of these became lighter, should I say like that? Well, there is not so much armor, there is like their Atlantean costumes feel like Kryptonian costumes, like, you know, this.
It's more of like a skin, not like a skin suit, but
kind of
like how
exactly.
like Superman's suit is kind of like an undersuit in Kryptonian culture.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah, because that's another quick question I had. So as far as like, so does this movie really like acknowledge anything that really happened in Justice League, or does it kind of just like brush over and focus more on Aquaman?
There will be like literally just a single mention from Mera, and that's it pretty much.
Okay. Now, is it a mention of like the plot of the Justice League, or is it mentioned with something specifically in like the theatrical cut?
No, nothing regarding the plot. Just something that Arthur did with Justice League, and that's it.
Gotcha. All right. Well, I mean, I kind of figured that because I know some people mentioned, oh, well, there's not really anything like Justice League related in this movie. I mean, not that I figured out there really would be, but it's nice to know that like if they really wanted to just release the Snyder Cut and say that that's canon, they can, because like Aquaman isn't really affected by the canon of Justice League. I don't think Wonder Woman really has to be, you know. Yes, I mean, Rebecca, did you have any other questions or anything that you wanted to ask Artyom?
No.
Okay. So I mean, I'm trying to think of things to talk about. So
we could talk about Jason dropping the shade about the Snyder Cut.
Oh yeah. So obviously, if for any of you guys who are listening who aren't aware, Jason's been talking a lot about Zack, and he's been asked about the Snyder Cut, and he said, I mean, let me pull up exactly what he said, because I don't want to like paraphrase, especially if I'm wrong. But if you guys want to like briefly talk about it while I find this, you guys can go ahead.
He and Amber were doing an interview, and the interviewer like mentioned the Snyder Cut, like, you know, would you like to see it? And he was like, yeah, you know, it sucks in our industry, you know, we can't talk about things, but yeah, I want to see it. Fuck yeah, I want to see it.
I want to see it.
And like just the emotion, I was just like, yeah.
Jason is MVP.
Yeah, totally. Like him and Ray and Amy are just like ride or die. Like you can feel like how ready they are to like die for Zack Snyder. Like, you know.
Okay, so in this interview, he was talking to someone from MTV News, and he wasn't allowed to say what he really wants to say on it. But they asked him like what he thought of it. He's like, oh, I'm obsessed with it too. And he's like, oh, you know, that's the one thing that sucks, because with our business you can't really speak your mind. But yeah, fuck yeah, I want to see it. So obviously, here's my whole thing. Like, and I know we've done this in the past. If you're someone out there who honestly does not think the Snyder Cut exists, you have to be incredibly fucking stupid to really think that. Like, the actors involved shot an entirely different movie. It's there. Whether it's okay, now whether it gets released, that's up for debate. Like, that's a discussion worth having. But obviously, it exists. Like, the actors involved had like basically like stated it exists. Jace, that's what I honestly I think with Aquaman. I think this will be the first really big indicator that maybe Warner Brothers will take a look into the Snyder Cut and maybe doing it.
Yeah, maybe.
Because honestly, like, I know it's obviously it's a lot to ask. Like, I'm not expecting to see the Snyder Cut, but I think if Aquaman ends up being a huge success, and Jason goes on to talk more and more about Zack Snyder and the Snyder Cut, and obviously people love to like watch Jason in general. And if they get more of the general public talking about Zack Snyder again in a more positive light because of Jason, maybe Warner Brothers would be more inclined to do something about it. I don't know, those are just my thoughts. But yeah, it's honestly, it is nice though seeing him talk so much about Zack, because I feel like in the last year we've heard like nothing from anyone involved. Like, Henry hasn't really talked much about Zack. Like, Gal doesn't really talk about Zack much at all. Like, Ray is the only one who really, like, still, like, hangs out with Zack and, like, talks about Zack in public. I mean, granted, like, he's not exactly a huge actor yet, unfortunately. So people probably don't really care what he has to say, which I think sucks, because, like, I think Ray is honestly one of the best parts of the Justice League cast.
Yeah.
But it's nice that finally, like, obviously with the promo tour and everything, that Jason's finally talking about it. So at least now, so it's getting... Like the word is out there and people are listening to him, you know.
Yeah.
Like let's say that like Zack came out and was like, oh yeah, like I have a cut of my movie, it's just not, we just aren't working on it, or it's not gonna get released. People will be like, oh well, duh, and no one's gonna listen to Zack Snyder. But because it's Jason Momoa and he's a huge actor and he has a movie coming out and he's the face of that movie, people are more inclined to listen to him.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm hoping that this all leads to something positive. Like, it doesn't even necessarily have to be a Snyder Cut, but just like maybe this will mean in the future that Zack will be brought in more into the universe again. So we'll see.
Yeah.
I mean, is there anything else you guys want to talk about as far as, you know, like what Jason said, or how you guys feel about it?
I saw there was this other thing that it was like 2 seconds long. He was doing a interview on the radio somewhere. I think it was England, but I'm not sure. And I think it was in the UK. And they like said that, I don't know, they were mentioning that, you know, he had a big break or whatever, or something like that. I don't know. Like, no, they were saying how great it was that he was Aquaman, because they literally couldn't imagine anyone else in the role, and he just said, like, really quick, thank you, Zack Snyder. and people on Twitter were like, "Oh my god!" Like, you know, like obviously, anytime Zack Snyder's name is mentioned by anyone, they literally were just like, "Oh my god!" But yeah, so I think Jason is just really like trying to like show appreciation for like getting where he is, you know, like because like obviously this is a big moment in his life, and like he's just feeling really grateful, I think, for like everybody that's like supported him, you know.
Yeah. I mean, have you read Jason Momoa interview where he said that he invited Zack Snyder to his wedding?
Yeah, I saw
Oh,
that.
really? Wow.
Oh yeah, he did say that. He invited Zach to his wedding. That was really nice.
So sweet.
Yeah, and he was thanking him. He said that he showed Zack Snyder his stuff and explaining him that, you know, in acting career there are tough times when you can't find a job and you reach the point when you can't even put food on the table. And he said to Zack Snyder, all of this wouldn't be possible if it wasn't for you. So he has a huge part of my heart, something like that, along these lines.
That's like stupidly beautiful.
I know.
Yeah.
That's what honestly, like, it's and I would say I just said this, but like having the actors actually, like having one of the actors talk so openly about his love for Zack and appreciation for Zack. Like honestly, I don't want to like compare this or make this about like shitting on Gal, but like I feel like Gal, because she's as big as she is like honestly like I feel like she's more inclined to not talk about Zack. Cause she'll like maybe like mention Zack in an interview or two, or maybe she'll say like, oh, thank you, Zack, like in like one event. But she doesn't necessarily like talk about him the way that Jason does. Like Jason is always like, oh, I fucking love Zack Snyder, like he's like my bro, and like I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for him. Where like Gal's like, thank you, Zack, crickets. You know? So,
Yeah.
So I mean that's one thing that kind of sucks, because I feel like Gal, for a fairly good reason. I mean, like she spends a lot more time like thanking and appreciating Patty more than Zack, which I mean it kind of sucks, but like Patty did make a really good movie and got Wonder Woman on the map as far as like live action movies go. But it's just I just wish more appreciation was thrown towards Zack. Not even just with Gal, but like with Henry. I think Ben supports Zack and loves Zack as much as Jason does, maybe if not more. But because like Ben is such a huge, big profile actor, that anything he says will be taken out of context. So I think he's in general remains quiet on stuff like that. So I don't blame him. But like I feel like Henry should be saying more. Gal should be saying more. Like Amy talks about him, but Amy like again like has a career outside of the movie, so of course she's focused more on that. So I feel like some of these actors, I feel like should show at least a little more appreciation for Zack. Considering
I feel like Henry used to talk about Zack a lot, and it's just kind of like waned over the years.
I feel like in the last year, like since Justice League, he's like kind of like stopped talking about Zack.
Yeah, it's weird.
Like honestly, like, I don't think anything necessarily happened between the two, but I feel like Henry maybe like. I feel like if anything, it's Henry's ego more than anything, thinking he's become bigger than Zack and bigger than his role in the DCEU.
Yeah, it does feel like that.
Like as of right now, where Henry is, he's not exactly like A-list name. Like it's funny because I've watched like some like YouTube videos in reaction to like I know this got a little off topic, but in reaction to like the Elseworlds crossover, and people like were like comparing like Tyler and Henry, and people were like, wait, who's Henry? And I was like, how do you like really? And these are people who, like, obviously, have seen the movies. They just don't know his name. And like, how do you not like? It's there. It's in the credits of the movie. Like he's. That's what I think. Like, I mean, we can't talk about this before, but like, Henry just is not that household name. Even still, after like 3 movies later, I just think he's.
Yeah, it's. I think Henry's gotten a little too full of himself.
Yeah.
You know, because I feel like I think that full of himself kind of came from Mission Impossible for the most part because of his role with Tom Cruise. Yeah, but I think even if they did say that he was going to get a Superman movie, I still don't think he would be as big of a household name as the person who's going to play Batman, if anyone else plays Batman. Because, unfortunately, Superman doesn't really get a lot of respect nowadays from anywhere, you know? Not
and
from
the only one who
WB.
does is Christopher Reeve, because people can't move out of the past. So anything that challenges that is either looked at as shitty, or like, oh, well, why are you doing this, or blah, blah, blah. So it's... Superman in general, as a character, he has to face such an uphill battle. Not even just in film, like in the comics and in TV. That's why I had such a huge problem with Tyler Hoechlin's Superman for such a long time, because he felt like an apology for BVS, like an apology for people who wanted Christopher Reeve's Superman back, and that's kind of that's all he was. Granted, I will say that, like, as far as Elseworlds crossover goes, they did. I feel like they did enough with this character to establish him that, like, in this most recent event, they did the most with him in making him his own Superman, and not necessarily a Reeve like copycat. But he was created as I think he was created as a BVS apology. And
especially the fact that Tyler's Superman, like, he smiles 24 hours per 7 days, I think.
Yeah.
Seriously. It's like, oh, look, our Superman smiles, so he is better than DCEU Superman because he's brooding and depressing and always serious, but look at this. This one smiles and saves kittens from the trees, like, oh my god.
Yeah, I mean, like, I knew that was going to happen, and I don't necessarily blame Tyler. I blame the showrunners, and I blame Warner Brothers for doing that. And, like, for me, like, I just, like, I'm open to different interpretations of Superman. What I'm tired of is going back to the Reeve era as if that is the only version of Superman we can do. And even, like, look at the comics. The comics for years, like, up until Dan Jurgens, like, left, the comics were back to being great again. Like, the Superman Rebirth stuff was great under Dan Jurgens. Dan Jurgens coming back is honestly one of the best things that ever happened to comics. Like, we got Jonathan Kent, or John Sam Kent. Like, we got so many good things because he came back and because we were treating Superman like his own character again, like he was, like, as his own person without being tied to nostalgia. And then, like, we didn't make, Brian Michael Bendis. We didn't have him do everything regarding Superman. And they basically turned Superman into fucking, like, nostalgia boy again. And it's like, no, we were doing so well. And, like, that's why in general, Superman has such an uphill to climb that no matter what, people are going to want him one way and not anything else.
Yeah, I mean, remember how Superman's 75th anniversary was celebrated? We've got Man of Steel. Zack Snyder directed this a short cartoon where you see evolution of Superman through different eras. Do you remember that short cartoon that he directed?
I still watch that from time to time. I love that cartoon.
Yeah, that was great.
They released 2 books dedicated to 75th anniversary of Superman and 75th anniversary of Lois Lane, like a compilation of different stories from different eras of both characters. And what they did for 80th anniversary, we brought back Red Trunks, and that's it. That was literally it.
Yeah, and the thing about Superman, and this involves the Elseworld crossover, because one of the things that really pissed me off about the Elseworld crossover when it came to Superman was the same thing that always pisses me off when it comes to Superman in, like, Supergirl, and that's they always downplay Superman as if he's not as important as Supergirl is. And there's been so many examples of this, like Superman always saying that Kara is stronger than him.
Yeah,
and that annoys me because, like, they play him off as this sort of legend, like this legendary hero in season 1. But when he comes in season 2, it's like he's getting knocked down, people are controlling him, and then in the Elseworld, it's even worse.
My biggest issue with that is, like, the shows sometimes, and, like, I gave it a lot of credit in season 1 for being a pretty good at like portraying like feminist ideas. Sorry.
Sorry about that.
I know, it's okay. But as soon as season 2 came, they like had to make an effort to be like, oh well, Supergirl has to be better than Superman because women have to be stronger than men because that's what feminism is about. I'm like, no, feminism isn't about women being stronger than men. It's about like being treated as equals, being treated like with the same amount of respect as each. Like it's so much more than just being stronger than the other. That's why I think a lot of people fall off the show like, oh well, it's just too feminist. I'm like, no, it's not too feminist. It's just the people writing this don't actually know what feminism is or what feminism means. So when they do that with Superman, like they're trying hard to be like, oh, see, we're feminist. See, don't you like this? It's like, no, like we would like this if you actually knew what feminism meant and like why Supergirl means so much to people. It's not because she's stronger than Superman. It's because of her heart. It's who she is as a character. It's not because of her brute strength and how much stronger than she is than Superman physically. It has been and never will be about that. It's about so much more than that. But the showrunners never really understand that. And even in the Elseworlds crossover, that hasn't made a stupid line of being like, "Oh, you're always so much better than me." Stop saying that. And what do you even mean by that? Like, and why do you mean that? He never really gives an explanation as to why he thinks that she's better than him. She's like, "Oh, no, you're so much better than me." And like, give like, "You're better than me at this." Like, your reason, you're blah 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 blah. I'm like, no, those aren't actual reasons. You're literally just coming up with excuses. Like, and it's ridiculous. Yeah. And like, it's one thing if you want to be like, okay, well, here's the reasons why Kara stands out as different from Superman. But no, but Supergirl has tried so hard to be like, well, no, we really need to make Kara more like Clark Kent and Superman in order for people to like her. And that's why, like, they made her a reporter at Catco. They made her, like character-wise, so much like Clark Kent. And I'm like, no, that's not who Kara is. Like, Kara Zor-El is. Like, she is her own person. And I feel like a lot of times the show forgets that. And that's why, like, in general, I think I've had so many issues with Supergirl as far as the characterization of Supergirl can be at times, and the characterization of Superman, because they don't know who these characters really are at the end of the day. They know, like, what fans want from these characters, and they think, okay, well, then that's just who they are. Like, no, the fans... Honestly, sometimes I feel like what people need to do is not listen to fans. Because that's how, like, that's how fucking Justice League happens. That's how the shitty parts of fucking Arrow happen with Olicity. Fans can be wrong. Fans are always in flux. Fans never know what they really want at the end of the day. So, in general, whether it comes to Superman or the TV shows or whatever, I think, in general, what they need to do is focus on creating a good character first, a grounded character who has real flaws and isn't a caricature and isn't like this hyper positive and like smiling all the time kind of character. Characters need to have depth. The character needs to stand out as different. So whether it's Superman or Supergirl or whatever, like if all you do is try to please nostalgia fans for nostalgia's sake, then you're gonna lose people, and your product is gonna stand the test of time. That's why I'm saying Tyler Hoechlin's Superman, even though I like him in the Elseworlds crossover, I think at the end of the day, he's not gonna stand the test of time. He's not, because he's not really adding anything new to the character. Or well, not Tyler Hoechlin, but that Superman is doing necessarily anything new for the character. Where I think Man of Steel, at the end of the day, like, even people don't want to admit it, it's gotten a lot more love in the last couple of years than it did when it first came out. A lot more people coming out saying like how much they love it and stuff. So I think Zack Snyder's Superman and Zack Snyder's DCEU in the long run will matter more for media and the portrayal of these characters at the end of the day than Bendis' Superman, than Joss Whedon's Justice League, than all these other iterations of these characters that can't move on from the past and can't be real characters.
Oh yeah, and one last thing with the Elseworlds crossover when it comes to Superman. Like, I enjoyed the fact that Lois and Clark got married and, stuff. I'm not going to say any more than that. Stuff happened.
Well, they didn't get married, so that...
Well, they didn't get married, but like, blah, 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 and all that. But one thing that annoyed me that Clark said to Kara that pretty much told me that we are never going to get a Superman TV series is that he basically told Kara, the world doesn't need a Superman, it's got Supergirl. And that right there told me exactly that, we're never going to get a Superman TV series.
So is he like retiring or something?
Okay, so
apparently,
so here, I'm like, Do you want to be spoiled for what happens?
Yeah, because allegedly, I cannot watch this thing. So yeah, whatever. Go ahead.
So if you guys don't want to be spoiled for what happens in the Elseworlds crossover from DC and DCW, don't listen for the next couple of seconds or the next minute or so. You've been warned. So the crossover ends with Superman and Lois and Clark tell Kara that she's pregnant. That Lois is pregnant.
Oh, I knew that because I saw it in the chat.
Yeah. So Lois is pregnant, and her and Clark decide to raise, or to, at least for the duration of the pregnancy, be in Argo, so that way Lois doesn't get hurt by the baby in the womb. Because apparently the whole like woman of Kleenex thing is something that the show still really feels strongly about. So basically, so Superman is retiring for the time being because he wants to be with Lois on Argo, and he wants to have like a kind of, I guess, somewhat of a normal upbringing for his child.
Okay.
So yeah. Which it's nice having. Like, I really liked Lois Lane in the crossover. I think Bitsy did a really, really good job. But the way that they ended things really made it seem like, okay, well, they probably aren't gonna do a Superman spinoff. Like they were literally they literally invented a reason for them not to come back.
Yeah, there wasn't enough of Lois in this crossover. I felt.
Well, she wasn't even in the second episode at all.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I enjoyed it, like her. That's why I want them to have their own show, even though like my trepidations with Tyler Hoechlin aside. And if they do get their own show, get the Supergirl showrunners and the Arrow showrunners and all this. Get a new set of showrunners for Superman and Lois, because everyone else does not know what to do with those characters at all. I don't like them. I don't like what they've done in the history of Superman on the shows. I worry for Lois in the future because she might be good now, but she might not be treated with the same amount of respect down the line. So I hope we get a spinoff for the show, and I hope we get good showrunners if and when that happens. So
yeah.
Yeah. So well, speaking of Superman, so I'm browsing through my Twitter right now, and because if you guys don't know, I'm a writer for Comic Book Debate, and in our Comic Book Debate group chat, someone has posted a link to a tweet from, I guess, Entertainment Tonight briefly interviewed Jason for the premiere of Aquaman last night, and I guess Jason had some things to say about Henry.
Oh my God!
No, not the way you think. Not the way you think. So they asked him. So Jason told them that Henry loves playing Superman and is absolutely not leaving the character. This is from Jason.
Okay.
Because obviously there were some like rumors, reports that like, oh, Henry's probably out of Superman and blah blah blah. Which I necessarily believe all of those, but that is like a little comforting. But at the same time, like even if he does stay on as Superman, well, which version of Superman are we gonna get?
Yeah, that's the big question.
Not only this, I think this world doesn't need DCEU Superman without Lois Lane.
Yeah.
And any other is under question.
Yeah, there's a lot to unravel.
Yeah, and that's the thing too, especially because like Amy had like it came out recently, like her whole interview with Nicole Kidman for Variety, and she basically said as of right now she thinks she's done with the DCEU.
Yeah, I mean it's not a 100% confirmation that she won't be Lois Lane anymore, but she wasn't contacted since Justice League apparently, and it's not comforting.
Yeah. Like, at the very least, I would like to at least know that she is, still there. Like, I wouldn't say make her just a cameo character every now and again. But, like, I guess, like, in some of the DCE movies, maybe have her, like, come into different cities. Say, she's Lois Lane from the Daily Planet in Metropolis. Came here to see what's going on here, blah, blah, blah. But to have her not be anywhere anymore, that doesn't sit well with me.
And the fact that it seems like Warner Brothers is kind of like perfectly okay with making a Superman movie without Lois Lane is really concerning to me.
I mean, the crossover has to tell them something, because I saw that everyone loved Lois Lane and the world supports this character, and I don't see how they would ever decide to do another Superman movie without her. And if they do, they might just recast both Henry and Emmy at this point, I'm afraid.
That sucks. Honestly, how do you treat one of the best actors, period, not even just actors, the best actors working today in Hollywood, treat her so horribly, and she's playing one of the most iconic fictional characters of all time. Lois Lane is honestly one of the best characters in fiction. And Warner Bros. Has shown that they do not care about her. Like, considering how they reshot her in Justice League, and how they haven't asked her at all about if she wants to come back or offered her a part in coming back. I'm not surprised, because Warner Brothers is a really shitty studio at the end of the day. But, like, it's Amy fucking Adams. Like, you should do better. Like, you should be on your fucking knees begging for her forgiveness. Not treating her, like, so fucking shitty. Like, it's just, it's so frustrating. And that's what I'm hoping, like, maybe, like, with that Nicole Kidman interview, maybe after Aquaman, people will be like, go to Warner Brothers, like, hey, get this woman her movie.
Yeah. I mean, it's still, to this day, it's still shocking that Warner Brothers, like, it feels like they lost everything. There is no Cyborg solo movie incoming. The Flash solo movie is not even in production still, and
Batman.
Yeah, Batman. No Superman. No Justice League Part 2 apparently for some time, and some members of the cast are just like completely abandoned the studio. I mean, Lawrence Fishburne even. I remember he said in one of the interviews that he might not be playing Perry White anymore.
And that sucks so much. He's honestly one of the best things about the DCEU. Like, he is such an amazing Perry White. Even like in Justice League, his lack of presence was felt. Like with Lois scenes, like, granted, obviously he wasn't going to be in Zack's cut or anything. But, like, it's still, like, the fact that he couldn't be there, and Warner Bros. Probably just didn't want him there, because they didn't want a longer film. Like, honestly, it just really sucks, because I think he's a great addition to the universe.
Yeah, even J.K. Simmons said he doesn't even know if he's going to be Jim Gordon anymore.
He only had one movie to be Gordon.
Exactly.
Honestly, the weird thing about it is it's like the way they dropped all their projects, it's like they didn't even know if they wanted to do the universe anymore. But they kept going with Wonder Woman and stuff. And I'm just like, it's like your actions with dropping every single one of your projects and then just not doing anything with them makes it look like you don't want to do this universe. But then at the same time, you're pushing the Wonder Woman movie forward. You're trying to get this Batman stuff going. And it's like the weird mixed messages, you know?
Yeah. It just feels like they don't really... It feels like they just announce movies just to stay relevant. But,
yeah,
you know, as, you know, people forget that they exist, WB just uses that and says, oh, we're done with the movie. Like, I have been looking forward to this Nightwing movie that is apparently now shelved, but the director is still saying, oh, no, it's still happening, it's just not happening right now. It's like, okay, so...
I'll be honest with you, I forgot that was even a thing. I forgot.
Exactly. That's the problem. Nightwing... There was supposed to be a Nightwing movie, but we never heard anything about it. Like, any indication that it was going to happen was pretty much shelved. And even the director was saying, oh, we're keeping our casting open for people of color, just anyone who can fit the role. It doesn't matter their color, just anyone who can fit the Dick Grayson role. And I was so happy because it was like, oh, we're getting a person of color, Dick Grayson, to play Nightwing. And nothing ever came of it.
Well, I don't know if you guys heard this, but the director basically announced that Nightwing has been shelved.
Yeah, he announced that it was shelved. So it's like,
there was supposed to be a Green Lantern Corps movie, a lethal weapon type of movie with Hal Jordan and Jon Stewart, and
wasn't David Goyer writing it?
Yeah, did he finish? Did he finish?
No,
the
it was
script?
John. It was Jeff Johns who was apparently going to produce it with his own company.
No, but
David Goyer was writing it.
David Goyer was writing it.
Oh, well, I don't know.
Did he
I
finish
didn't even know
writing
David Goyer was writing it.
See, well, that's why we have this podcast, so you learn these things. No, but
I mean, did he finish the script though? Like,
I don't know. They announced that he was working on it, and then it kind of ended up in like basically it now Green Lantern Corps is in development hell too. Like all of these movies.
And then
here's the thing, like
it's like, you know what it's like? It's like after BVS came out, Warner Brothers forgot how to be a movie studio. Like they just forgot how to make movies. You know?
They just wanted the same money that Disney was doing with MCU, and the greediness is what destroyed them, I think.
Yeah.
Here's like my issue, because and this kind of is like a large issue that I also want to discuss, is that all of these so-called movies that are either like reported to be in works or announced or whatever, like let me find a list of like all of these so-called movies that are going to be made. So give me 1 second, because it's getting ridiculous at this point, and I want to talk about it.
Yeah, there's a lot.
Is New Gods actually moving forward, or what is happening with that movie?
I have not heard anything about New Gods.
I still think New Gods is gonna happen, but let me.
Yeah, Ava's still working on New Gods.
I mean, freaking Plastic Man before Lois Lane.
Yes, exactly. Like, okay,
what the fuck?
Yeah, Plastic Man. Well, I'm giving Plastic Man the benefit of the doubt because the writer for the script is a new up-and-coming African-American female writer. So I'm giving that the benefit of the doubt.
And that's the thing that sucks. Like, I hate the idea of a Plastic Man movie, and it serves no purpose in the DCEU, but I want to support women of color coming up in Hollywood. So I'm like, I'm so torn. But it's okay, so here's as of right now, either announced or quote unquote in production. So these are not including like the ones we already know about, like Shazam, Wonder Woman, Birds of Prey. So there's Deathstroke, Suicide Squad 2, Batgirl, Black Adam, Supergirl. New Gods I think is gonna happen. Blue Beetle, Plastic Man, Nightwing, kind of. Deadshot, apparently. Gotham City Sirens is still up in the air. Yeah, and then that's pretty much it as far as right now.
Oh, okay. So
and Lobo.
Oh yeah, I forgot about Lobo.
We can just not do the Lobo movie, please. No one asked for this. Not one person asked for it.
I mean, yeah. But anyway, what was the first movie?
There's so many I already forgot. Okay, so it was the guys. So Plastic Man, Supergirl, Batgirl, Deathstroke, Deadshot, the DCEU Joker movie, Blue Beetle, Suicide Squad 2, Black Adam, Nightwing, Gotham City Sirens, and yeah.
Okay, so first and foremost, Deadshot is not going to happen. Like, I think we all know Deadshot.
Honestly, I have a hard time believing that like 75% of these are happening. Like some of these have a chance. Like I think New Gods definitely has a chance because I think it's Ava DuVernay and she keeps talking about it. So she's not like, it's not like one of those dead in the water projects. Deathstroke, I don't think is gonna happen. Blue Beetle, as much as I would like Blue Beetle, I don't think it's happening. Supergirl, we'll see. Plastic Man, it's too new to say, but I don't think Plastic Man's gonna end up happening. Like I said, Deadshot, I don't think is going to happen. Black Adam, I think is a pointless film and doesn't need to get made. Just save Black Adam for Shazam 2. Like,
yeah. I think they're only going to do Black Adam because, you know, it's The Rock going to be playing.
Yeah. So I don't think that should happen, but who knows? I mean, they've been talking about the movie for years. Honestly, I don't think Nightwing is going to happen.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I mean, it depends, you know. It depends on how you know, well-received Titans is when Dick becomes Nightwing and
I don't know. Honestly, like, I feel like Titans is good and it's like it's popular amongst the DC fans, but outside of that, it's not a popular show. Like, it's not well known enough. So I don't think a Nightwing and Titan is really going to sway whether or not they do a Nightwing movie, because I don't think enough people watch the show to really care.
True.
But another movie, I think Gotham City Sirens has a good chance of happening if Birds of Prey does well.
Yeah. Suicide Squad 2.
No. At least not with James Gunn. Just get him off there, maybe.
I could care less for Suicide Squad 2 anymore.
Like, I know what? Sorry. I was yawning. I still don't want James Gunn attached to any movie ever.
I mean,
especially with that fucking Brightburn shit.
Oh, here we go. Let's do it. Who wants to go first?
I'm going. I mean, okay. So here's the thing about Brightburn that automatically just set me off on the wrong place. Because, you know what? Hold on a second. Because I remember I did a whole thing about this somewhere. But let me just, I guess, start here. So, with Brightburn, like, the short answer is that I don't like it because it just kind of looks cheap and it doesn't really look that well made, in my opinion. But the long answer is that I feel like this movie just represents everything wrong with how people say, oh, Superman is boring, oh, he has no real character. But, like, Superman by himself is dynamic and a lovable character. But it's because most people keep writing him with this Christopher Reeve focal lens that, you know, we never get to do anything with him. His morals never change from the Christopher Reeve 70s era for modern times. And that's why people say he's boring. Which is sad because it's like, now the only way to make Superman interesting is to basically be like, oh, he's evil now. We've seen it in Injustice. We've seen it in this Elseworld crossover, which kind of didn't count, but it sort of did. And now we see it in other forms of media that try to parody Superman. Like, it's clear that James Gunn is just trying to rip off Man of Steel and say, haha, look, he's evil like we all knew the movie wanted him to be. And it's like, no, that's not what Zack wanted. That is not what Zack Snyder used Superman for. But now James Gunn is here, and he's most likely going to set us back quite some time with Superman with this movie.
Honestly, the movie's going to come out, and all the critics are going to be like, see, this is a deconstruction of the trash, which is Man of Steel. And it's like, I don't know. And then they're going to compare Gunn to Zack and say that they're, like, equally as bad as each other or something like that.
No, they're going to praise Gunn. I know it.
How? Isn't he, like...
Because the critics don't care about that kind of stuff. All they care about is what James Gunn did before. Because if you notice in the Brightburn trailer, it literally stated from the director of Guardians of the Galaxy. And as long as James has Guardians of the Galaxy under his belt, he's not going to get any sort of negative criticism from critics. They're going to look at his movie and be like, oh, this is a great film by that one guy who made Guardians of the Galaxy, the funniest movie of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And that's all they're going to see.
It's so depressing, honestly.
Yeah, this is depressing. And this movie, Brightburn, it damages the entire concept of Superman. An alien refugee who came from space, from destroyed planet, to live on Earth among us and to do good with his powers. Like, why? And speaking of the only way to make Superman interesting Uh, one of the most known stories about him that praised pretty much by everyone are stuff like Red Sun or Kingdom Come. Again, the stories that twist his character in some way that is not true to his core. And I'm also afraid that Brightburn will be well received and will be compared to Man of Steel because it is a parody that I'm afraid will take itself too seriously in comparison to Man of Steel, and it will be an upsetting time in the internet when this movie will come out, because everyone will be praising James Gunn because he did Guardians of the Galaxy, and I don't want to think about it right now, it's just too depressing.
Yeah.
Honestly, it's kind of like, it's like the movie, it looks like as if the premise of the movie is that the natural, it didn't really show exactly the plot exactly of how the kid became bad, but like it's almost like it's not really doing, because the whole like you said before, like it's an immigrant story, it's a refugee story, and we've already got, at least in the United States, this whole thing about like, oh, people are just like bring their problems here and stuff, and there's bad people and they come here and they bring their problems, which is what Trump is saying, and then you've got this movie with this kid from another planet, and you're gonna say, well, he's just naturally bad because he's not from here and he's different from us, whatever. So it's like, it just kind of defeats the purpose of the narrative in the first place, and it's just destructive, and it's just not gonna do anybody any favors,
Yeah. And the worst part of everything is that he will be evil as a kid already. And
which is just so freaking... It's terrible, because that's the narrative is... Kid is bad because he's not from around here.
Yeah.
And, just evil. And it's like... That's like the opposite of the Superman story, because it's like... Superman's story is about, like, being a good person, like, making the choices to help people, and, like, you choose the path that you want to take. At least that's what Jonathan Kent told Clark in Man of Steel, right? Like, he's talking about choices, he's talking about you have to choose who you're gonna be, And in this movie, it's like the kid is a child. He didn't even get to grow up and, like, choose what kind of person he was gonna be. The narrative is just, he is evil. And they're like, it's just like, I don't know.
And what's worse is that, well, what does that say about the parents in this movie? Did they give him the choice to be what he wanted to be? Because I feel like in this movie they kind of just treated him like he was an alien. And that's the difference between Man of Steel and this movie, from what I've seen of the trailers, is that in Man of Steel, the Kents treated Clark, they didn't treat Clark like a human, but they treated him like their son. Like, they knew he was different, but they still cared for him, and they tried to make all of his, everything going about him like it was a normal thing that he just had to decide for himself. But here in this movie, they look at the boy as if he's some kind of weirdo. Like, they just look at everything he does, and they're like, wow, what is wrong with you? Why are you like this? And all that.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like there's going to be a point in the movie where the parents have had enough and they yell at the kid about being different. Like, why are you so weird? Why are you like this? Blah, blah, blah. And that's going to be the tipping point that essentially turns him evil. So basically, it's like there's no parental love put into there. And then probably at the very, very end, the mom is probably going to try and console the boy and be like, I've always loved you as my son. And then she probably is going to kill him. Because that's how horror movies go.
This movie is just going to be trash. Like, it's just going to be the worst. It's going to have, like, every theme that you don't want in a movie like this. And it's just going to be bad. And people are going to talk... People are gonna talk about how intellectual it is and how this is what the genre needs, whatever.
Blah, blah. And it's just, how can anyone could come up with combining Superman and horror? Like, what? How? I don't
That's something more for
Because
Batman.
the edge, guys.
Yeah. But anyway,
Fuck James Gunn. That's all I'm gonna say.
yeah.
Like, it's funny because he's not even like directing this movie, but you can see his fucking grubby little fingerprints all over it, and it's just so fucking arrogant of him to fucking do this movie at all. Like, he's like,
Exactly.
I feel like honestly, this is like huge. Like, honestly, this movie feels like such a huge fucking middle finger to Man of Steel, and like, I'm looking at DC, I'm like, wow, this is the guy you want doing one of your in-universe movies, really.
But my question is, why Superman? Why did you decide to go after Superman of all characters?
Because controversy, and honestly, if you're trying to get props right now, going after Superman and or Zack Snyder is like the easiest way to get attention. Because people will just flock to you.
Marvel fanboys and Zack Snyder haters are gonna love Brightburn.
Oh god, I know.
God
Yeah.
damn it.
And all the fucking hashtag rehire James Gunn people too.
Yeah. And you know what's upsetting is that since Brightburn there were all these talks like, oh come on, Zack Snyder was going to put Superman. Well, I mean, did you see that nightmare sequence in BVS and blah blah blah? I mean, Zack Snyder explained on Vero that Superman did not choose to be evil after Lois died. He was manipulated after traumatic experience by anti-life equation.
I mean, obviously, because the whole dark side thing, and like, just like the fact that people could think that like that's the same as Injustice, I'm like, it's not. Like, he was clearly manipulated. Like, he's clearly under the influence of dark side. Like, you know.
Exactly.
Well, I mean,
it's not the same as Injustice or maybe Brightburn. He is brainwashed, and it's much easier to take this kind of evil Superman who is mind controlled than the one who does evil and thinks that this is okay. Like, in Injustice, he kills Shazam in the video game. He burns his brains out with his heat vision. And then goes like, well, he pissed me off and that's it. Like, wow. How can you compare that to what was shown in BVS? Or at least implied in BVS?
Yeah, and technically, Superman in, like, the Injustice comics, like, he was manipulated more so because, you know, I forgot how, because I didn't really pay attention to the Injustice comics. But apparently Wonder Woman was the one who kept egging him on to be, you know, to be evil, to be what he is in the games. So
Wonder Woman is a complete edgelord in Injustice, and you know why? It's because they changed her origin story in Injustice Universe, where they made Steve Trevor an actual Nazi, not an agent.
Whoa,
undercover.
He was a Nazi?
I think I have read somewhere that the reason why she's like that in Injustice is because Steve Trevor was actual Nazi in that universe, and he betrayed her at some point.
Wow, okay. It's just so edgy. Like, wow.
Oh, he was a Nazi. Oh my god.
Well, speaking of something more positive, let's talk about that image of Lois Lane that Zack Snyder posted with his cameo from Justice League.
Oh, I love that. I was so happy.
And then storyboard, I mean, can you imagine that Justice League was supposed to start with Amy Adams, not with Batman, but fighting some dude, just to establish this plotline that Parademons sends fear, so that at the end they killed Steppenwolf because he was afraid, like human. I mean, this was so stupid and cartoonish in the first place, but I mean, we were robbed of Lois Lane starting Justice League movie out of all things. Like, how could anybody at Warner Brothers like watch Zack Snyder's version even if unfinished? I mean, he pretty much said that he filmed the entire thing. Somebody asked him on Vero, like, all these storyboards you post, did you shot all of them? And he replied with, I shot what I draw. So this pretty much confirms again that he shot entire Justice League, and somebody at Warner Brothers actually thought that a thirsty joke scene is better than starting on a serious grieving moment with Lois Lane and Martha. I mean, oh my god.
Yeah.
There's like so many bombshells recently, like between like David Ayer and just like Zach posting all these storyboards and stuff, and just like I was just like screaming, like I was like, there is no freaking way, like with the Suicide Squad, like worse than we ever imagined with the meddling, and just like it just like honestly.
Yeah, like apparently Steppenwolf was supposed to be the Suicide Squad enemy, and then I guess for Justice League it was gonna be Darkseid.
Yeah, and
Mother,
like the reason why Enchantress was evil is because Mother Box was controlling her.
Yeah,
and
the Mother Box.
She was supposed to turn humans into parademons.
Yeah. Like, I can't even with this studio, like, literally. And this is the thing, everybody's like, oh, like, they're so inept, they can't make good movies. Because the studio keeps taking the freaking plot, literally destroying everything that these creators are working on, and you want to wonder why it looks like not so good at the end of it. Like, stop blaming the directors, stop blaming the writers. It's not their fault. Like, seriously, it's just like, it's just terrible.
I mean, it should have been indicated by, you know, Joss Whedon being a part of Justice League. I mean, I know he's not that good, but I would have thought people would at least realize that it's not the director or the writer, it's the company and the studio. But, like, people are still now saying, oh, Zack Snyder ruined BVS, when he had plenty of scenes that he wanted to put in, like that one scene with Superman, hearing all around him for his mom, but he couldn't concentrate on her voice because he was going through all the stress of trying to find her.
Yeah, he had to ignore other crimes in order to save his mom. And I saw somebody on Twitter replying with, well, he's Superman, he can solve all the crimes while flying to Mars. Like,
yeah, fucking seriously?
God.
No, you can't.
No, she's literally on a ticking time bomb. Like it's like, that's not Superman.
Yeah,
Superman always has to choose. Superman always has to put things into perspective and choose which one is the more important thing to do. Because if, like, I don't think people realize this, but Superman can hear the entire world, which means he can hear every single crime, every single cry for help, and every single terrible situation going on in the world, but he has to prioritize which one needs saving the most. And that's a very sad thing that Superman has to go through, but it's reality.
And here's the thing: most iterations of Superman media don't address this issue. Like, Zack was going to address that issue. Look, even like Smallville and one of its last episodes of its run addressed this very issue, and it made Lois like almost she broke off her engagement with Clark because of it, because she got his abilities for a day. And she had to ignore all the other people calling for help. And he's like, oh, well, there's a fire station nearby. There's cops nearby. They can help. Because like, that's the thing. Like, Superman literally has to prioritize who to save, because there's so many people who need saving at the same time. Obviously, Superman can't be in two places at once. Like, and I think that's such an interesting conversation for Superman, but no one wants to have that conversation.
Yeah.
Like, I think I remember the creator of God of War, that new God of War game, he actually suggested that be something for a Superman game where, you know, Superman has to prioritize where he goes to save people.
Yeah, it was a good concept, and Superman Returns actually addressed that issue.
Yeah,
and
they did.
They addressed it like a little bit, like
a little bit.
But it was a very good line when he said, "Lois, you wrote that this world doesn't need a savior, but every day I hear people crying for one." Like it was a nice scene for Superman.
Yeah.
I mean, I just feel like, in general, people, a lot of fans think like, oh, they know what's best when it comes to Superman. No, you fucking don't. You don't know what you want with Superman. You don't even know Superman. Because if you knew Superman, you would know how actually accurate Zack Snyder's portrayal is.
Yeah, and the worst part is that a lot of people hate that Zack Snyder makes all these Jesus and God parallels with Superman. Yet they all want him to do exactly like something like a god could do, like literally everything. It's so stupid.
Like they want him to turn back time. They want him to be everywhere at once. They want him to do this. Like, you want him to be a god, but when Zack Snyder challenges that idea, he gets literally like death threats and hate from everyone in the universe because, God forbid, you break down the character of Superman.
And I think it was Danielle who pointed out in the chat that, like, for every scene where they compare him to like a godlike character, there's a scene immediately after that humanizes him. Like, so you have the scene in the desert, and then right after he's bringing home groceries, and you've got the whole thing on the news with them talking about his power and what it means, and then right after you've got him calling his mom at like 2 a.m. in the morning, you know? So it's like that structure, you know, of the story, like, so you could say like, oh, Zack is telling us that he's a god, or like when you actually look at the structure, you'll see that like Zack is like saying this is how people see him, and this is how it actually is, you know?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, did you hear what the Russo brothers said about Superman, by the way?
No.
No, was it recently?
Yeah, it was like recently. Hang on, let me pull it up. So, in an interview, they were talking about what is the hardest comic book character to adapt to, you know, to the big screen, and both of them were saying Superman. And the reason for this, they said, the more powerful a character is, the more difficult to deal with the character on a narrative level. You have to find an emotional flaw or weakness in the character in order to make them vulnerable.
Zack fucking did that! Like,
yeah, that's what Zack did.
Did they acknowledge that, or were they just kind of talking about Superman? They didn't mention Zack.
No, they didn't mention that, Zack. They were just talking about how, you know, the only way to make Superman into a character in a movie is to have him go through, like, emotional flaws. Like, have him have, you know, issues that pertain to him in general. And I'm just looking at it like, yeah, that's what Zack did in Man of Steel and BVS. Like,
maybe they were trying to say that, but I really need them to, like, actually acknowledge it verbally. You know what I mean? Because if you just say that and you don't say, and Zack Snyder did a good job with that, then everybody's going to think you're throwing shade, and then they're going to be like, yeah, Zack Snyder doesn't know how to handle Superman.
To be honest, I think a lot of Hollywood just doesn't give a shit about Zack. So they either say nothing or they talk. I don't know. The only person I know in Hollywood who doesn't really trash Hollywood as far as directors go is Scott Derrickson, the guy who directed Doctor Strange. He's the only one who actually praises Zack.
Yeah, he loved Watchmen.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, granted, I don't love Doctor Strange. I think it's one of the MCU's more weaker films of recent years.
Yeah.
But I mean, I still respect the guy. Like he's like he. I mean, at least as far as that opinion goes. I mean, I'll never really. I don't know if it was necessarily a him decision or a Marvel decision for the whitewashing of the Ancient One, but I'm still never really gonna get over that.
But no, it's the him decision.
Oh well, yeah, well, fuck him. But at least I could say like as far as directors go, like he has always been more open about like hey, give everyone a fair shot, treat everyone the same. Like as far as like criticizing directors or praising directors, like he's always willing to give everyone a shot. Like he has been and he has been consistent like that. So I'll give him credit there.
And did you guys saw that the list of Guillermo del Toro? He posted his favorite superhero movies, and he included Watchmen and Man of Steel.
Wait,
I saw that.
Wait, did he include Man of Steel? I know he included Watchmen.
He had Man of Steel in there.
Oh, I didn't know
He didn't
that.
have BVS though. Last time I saw it.
I mean, that's fair. A lot. Hey, like, I don't expect everyone to love BBS, but like the fact that Guillermo del Toro, honestly, like I'll admit, I've never sat through an entire one of his films, but
You didn't see Hellboy?
no,
Oh my god!
I've never seen a single one of his films, like in its entirety. I've seen like bits and pieces of Hellboy and Hellboy 2. But I've never seen like those, or Pan's Labyrinth, or Shape of Water.
Have you seen
You need to watch Pacific Rim right now. And Hellboy.
I own Pacific Rim on Blu-ray. I just haven't gotten around to actually watching it yet.
Dude, what are you doing with your life?
I have a wife and job and I have a baby on the way. That's what's going on in my life.
Okay, fair enough.
Did you at least see the Guillermo del Toro movie where the woman wants to bang a fish man?
I literally just said I haven't seen Shape of Water.
Oh.
Why you gotta describe it like that, Al?
I know, all dirty.
I mean, I haven't seen it yet.
Come on. Let's be real.
That's not all the movie's about, though. So
Yeah, I know it's not all the movie's about.
And it has Michael Shannon in it, who terrifies me, and I love him. He's so sweet in real life. It's bizarre. Like, it's so weird.
And he's such a humble dude too. Like, do you guys remember hearing that story? Because he was in like that one Christmas movie with it was like Anthony Mackie and Seth Rogen, where like someone told him that like, oh, for the premiere you have to wear an ugly Christmas sweater, and he was the only one who got the memo. So he everyone else was wearing like suits and ties, and he's wearing like this like ugly Christmas sweater at the premiere.
Wait, Mike Shannon, you said?
I mean, Michael Shannon, the guy who played Zod.
Oh, Michael Shannon. Yeah, I love him.
Yeah, who do you think we were talking about?
Yeah, I love him, but god damn. I see him and then I see Zod. It's like, God.
Yeah, like, seriously, I was like, honestly, everything I've seen him in, like, he's scary. He was in Nocturnal Animals, also with Amy Adams and Jake Gyllenhaal.
I've seen
and, like,
that movie is honestly so, like, I've seen, like, I would say, like 75% of that movie. That movie is so unsettling, but it's so good.
Yeah, it's really awful to watch, but, like, in a good way. But, like, everything I've seen him in, he's, like, a really scary, intense character. And I saw, like, the ads for Shape of Water, and I saw he was, like, again, like, this really angry dude. And I was like, you're scaring me, Michael. But then, like, you see him in real life, and he's, like, falling asleep half the time. And he's, like, all soft, and he likes wearing sweaters, and, like, he's just the sweetest person, and it's like, is this the same guy who, like, was, like, really ready to, like, kill the entire human race and, like, stabbed his best friend and, like, did all this other stuff?
Yeah.
And it's funny because for so long, like, the only thing I had seen him in up until Man of Steel was Kangaroo Jack, which is a movie I know that Danielle fucking hates.
I remember watching it when I was a kid, and I know I enjoyed it, even though I didn't think it was, like, I knew it wasn't high art or anything, but, like, I haven't seen it in so long, like, I don't even remember, like, what happens, actually, and I don't remember that he was in it.
That's an old
movie. It ends up
movie.
being, like he was, like, Jerry O'Connell's, like, stepbrother or something like that, or something, I don't know. He's like a mobster dude. But you know what's actually kind of funny is that he does kind of end up playing the villain in that movie, and Jerry O'Connell obviously went on to voice Superman in the DC animated movies. So that's kind of funny.
Yeah.
God, I wish Danielle was here because like literally anytime Kangaroo Jack is brought up, I know she goes off.
Why does she hate it so much?
I don't know. I know she thinks it's like one of the worst movies she's ever seen. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, as a kid, I mean, like it was. Obviously, looking back, I mean, I haven't seen it since I was a kid. I know it's dumb, but like, I still enjoyed it as a kid, and I'm never gonna like apologize for that.
Yeah, I mean, it's honestly same. Like, I don't even really remember but I remember like having seen it a few times and like enjoying myself enough to not remember hating it. So
all I remember is the song.
I remember there was a song, but I can't remember how it went.
Wait,
which
which
is
song?
weird.
Like, the hip hop, the hippie, the hippie.
Oh,
to the
yeah.
Oh yeah, that one.
But that wasn't even like that's like that like the movie song though. It's like that's just an actual song, and then.
Yeah, and then I remember something about chicken blood.
I remember a plane. There was a plane, right? Wasn't there a plane at one point?
Was there?
I feel like there was.
We've really gone off the rails here.
Speaking of Jerry O'Connell and animated Superman, did we discuss Death of Superman animated movie?
We have not.
No.
And,
Oh yeah, we haven't.
I was trying to watch it, but of course, you know, I never do watch things.
I mean,
and here I actually want to say this for anyone who doesn't know. I was at Comic-Con this past year, and I actually attended the world premiere of the Death of Superman. So that was pretty cool. And I literally got a front row seat. So I was like, right in front of the cast and everyone. Granted, I didn't really interact with any of the cast. I didn't like ask them any questions, but like being like that close to like Jerry O'Connell, Rebecca Romijn, and like Chris Gorham, like the people involved in the movie, it was still really cool. Now, as far as the movie goes, I think it is one of the best DC animated movies in years.
yeah, and when I was watching it, I felt that it nods to Zack Snyder so much.
Yep.
Like, especially the ending.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I thought this movie was. I thought this movie basically. This movie refueled my because before this movie, I felt like these New 52 animated movies just kind of glossed over Superman. He was just sort of there,
yeah.
you know. But this movie really made me love this animated version of Superman in more ways than I didn't think I would. Because, he felt so, I don't know.
Well, I think what helped
perfect...
is that, this is the first time in a while that I feel like they weren't focusing on a New 52 storyline for the characters.
Yeah.
It was a pre-New 52 story that just happened to be wrapped around this New 52 adaptation of these characters.
Yeah. And, this Superman just felt so... I don't know. He felt like the perfect mix of all the good qualities of Superman. He had the DCEU Superman, but he also had, a little bit of the animated series in there. And it just... There's, even hints of Smallville that was put in there, too. He had, the perfect mix of Superman in terms of character, both as Superman and Clark.
Yeah, and the action was so brutal,
it really
and
was.
intense. It was bloody. It was even bloodier than what Zack Snyder did. And everyone was okay with that again.
Yeah. The fight was intense. Because, Doomsday just kept coming and just beating up him every minute. It was... this was more intense than the first animated Death of Superman movie, in my opinion. Because I felt like there was just more at stake going on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I feel like the first... The original Superman Doomsday one... They tried... It wasn't even, a full adaptation of the storyline. It was more of, oh, we're doing Doomsday, but, none of, it's literally just taking the character and, some of the resurrection, and that's it.
Yeah.
But Death of Superman, went out of their way to make it as a part of the DC animated movie universe as they could, while still adapting most of the original storyline.
Yeah, and what was amazing with Death of Superman is that they used an actually married couple to voice Superman and Lois Lane.
I
This
know.
was amazing.
Yeah, they did.
I'll admit, I was a little worried about Rebecca Romijn because, I enjoyed her physicality as Mystique in the original X-Men movies, but she wasn't always the best But I will say she did a really good job with the voice.
Honestly, in her defense, I thought she was good.
I don't think she was terrible. I just think maybe like her line delivery wasn't always the best.
But yeah, she did great as Lois Lane.
Oh yeah, and I think it helps when she's literally working with someone that she's like actually in love with. So there's actually like a real like sense of like she's honestly feeling what Lois is feeling towards Clark, because that's the Jerry O'Connell actually is her husband.
Yeah, that's why that final scene with her and Clark was just so. It felt so impactful because, you know, being an actual married couple, you know, I think it would be like a travesty to see like your loved one just die in your arms. So that emotion, it's there.
Yeah, and the way how they directed his death here, it's like they combined both Man of Steel and Batman v Superman into one scene. He snaps Doomsday's neck, and Doomsday penetrates him with his bone. And I mean, it was clever. It was a clever nod to Zack Snyder.
Yeah, and the music too. Honestly, and the musical score for the movie too was really emotional too, because it really like it. Honestly, like it felt like such a step up from everything else. That DC has done with their animated movies lately. Like, I mean, like I enjoyed. I'll admit, like I really loved the Flashpoint animated movie. I enjoyed Justice League War, but other than that, like the universe of the films they've been doing lately, I haven't been all that into. Like I tried to.
They've mostly just been Batman.
It's like I can't really like I'm not really into like Batman and versus Robin, or you know like Batman like a lot of the Batman ones I just don't really care for. Like I just don't. However, like I tried watching the Teen Titans, was it the Judas Contract or whatever?
Yeah.
That one seemed okay. I mean, I haven't finished it. I got around to starting it, but I never actually fully finished it. It looked interesting. I tried watching Justice League versus Teen Titans, and that one was okay for most of what I saw. But I just feel like something for some of these movies, I feel like the voice acting could be it could be better, because like I feel like because the actors for these movies record themselves like in separate rooms, that like some of like the dialogue between like the group scenes feels very like short and like cut off. So like it's not actual conversations. It's like 6 different people talking, and then they cut it to make it seem like they're having a conversation.
Yeah.
But
speaking of I'm sorry. Speaking of Flashpoint,
by Gaslight, actually very good.
So what was that?
Batman Gotham by Gaslight, an animated movie.
Oh yeah, that one. Yeah.
Very good.
Oh yeah, I still gotta see that one.
Yeah, so I haven't seen it. So the last one I think I saw in its entirety, I think it might have been Batman versus Robin was the last one, and I didn't, because that was the one that had like Court of Owls and stuff, and I just didn't really care for it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Oh, speaking of like Flashpoint, did you guys know that Suicide Squad? I forgot that Suicide Squad animated movie, the recent one.
Oh yeah. Hell to Pay. Yeah. Oh, I already know what happens in it. So like.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that happened.
I mean, granted, okay, I don't think anyone really cares if we spoil it. So spoilers if you haven't seen Suicide Squad Hell to Pay. But the Reverse Flash is in it, and it's the first time in that universe, post-Flashpoint, that they acknowledge what happened in Flashpoint, because Reverse Flash has a bullet wound still in his head, but he's alive, somehow.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
like, I when I saw that, I was like, what? No way.
And it's the same voice actor, too.
Yeah. I'm like, they're really creating their own thing going on here. It was amazing. That was cool.
Yeah, I mean, I liked what was it, Assault on Arkham, which is like that one wasn't part of that universe technically. That one was actually part of the Arkham game universe, and I thought that one was actually pretty good. But yeah, I mean, as far as so that's what I'm saying. Like the Death of Superman, I think is probably the best DC movie since Flashpoint.
Yeah.
So well, it's obviously animated movies. So I mean, we'll see, because Return of Superman, I think, because I haven't spent as much time reading the source material for that one, and so it could really go either way for me, because having like Cyborg Superman, Steel, Superboy, the Eradicator, I don't know how well it's all going to work out, but we'll see. I think it is interesting that for the Eradicator, they actually used the DCEU Superman logo.
Yeah, I noticed that.
So I do think that's a little weird because I'm like, okay, well, like, why are you using a different symbol than what he already has? But okay.
Yeah, I know Superboy. I know I'm already gonna like Superboy because I've always liked Superboy. Well, the '90s version of Superboy.
I honestly, excuse me. Like, I haven't always been the biggest fan of '90s Superboy.
I know you haven't.
Not that I hate him. I'm just like that whole look and like this personality and stuff. Like I'm just not the biggest fan. That's why like as soon as like when like in the early 2000s when they had him with Teen Titans and he started wearing the black shirt, and then when the Young Justice and stuff started coming out, like that's the kind of Superboy that I like. Like have like a little bit of like the bad boy with anger issues, but like there obviously are deeper issues there. Version of the character, I think I find that a lot more interesting than just like the 90s version that they're trying to do. And I think it's weird because they still have his old 90s look, but it's supposed to be like the present day. And they're doing that in the comics with him too, so I think it's a little weird.
Yeah, it is. It's a weird fashion whiplash.
Yeah, like it's one thing if you did this like maybe like in like 2000, but like it's 2018 and like that style just doesn't really fit anymore.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Oh yeah, and then there's Steel.
Steel, I'm excited for because Steel, like it's funny because the other night, Danielle and I actually had a really long conversation about Steel and like how we both think that like a Zack Snyder directed Steel movie would like break America and the internet.
Yeah.
Steel, honestly, I think Steel is an underrated character, and I think he deserves more screen time in general.
I mean, we've had screen time with Steel though.
I'm not acknowledging the Shaq movie because I haven't because I haven't seen it. I don't know how good or bad it is, but I know people say that's horrible.
Oh, it's terrible. It is horrendous. And not in the good way. I mean in the, oh my god, why was this made kind of way. Because it does this thing that a lot of, I guess, black films do, where they try to sort of appeal to the African American community, and their heart is there, but it's just, it comes off as very cheesy, and it sometimes just feels, it just feels like it's parroting itself. But yeah, it's pretty bad. I would not recommend.
I mean, not that well, because that movie like was made in a time when they were trying to adapt the Superman Lives movie, which is going to adapt the Death of Superman storyline. So they were going to have Steel tie into that, and ultimately, obviously, Superman Lives never happened. So they made the Shaq Steel movie without Superman and without the Death of Superman, and it ended up becoming what it did. So, yeah. So that's why that happened. Is there anything else that came out recently that you guys would like to talk about? Because I feel like I'm kind of running on fumes here.
I guess.
Well, go ahead.
There's the Shazam movie where they recently said there was this one scene where apparently Shazam is falling and he keeps yelling Superman, Superman, and then he suddenly is floating. Now,
wait, is that from somebody? Did somebody see like a piece of the movie and is reporting on this?
No, so this was it was like a fan event. It was like a Brazil, basically like a Brazil Comic-Con. They screened Shazam footage, and this was a description of the footage.
Oh my god!
Yeah.
I pray that it's not the kind of Superman in the beginning of Justice League with the kids talking about hippopotamuses. Like, I hope it's not that kind of Superman. Like, that saves
floating, and then like Shazam looks up.
And he sees the ass, and it's just like, you see this here? It's meant to wind like a river.
I think we all know which face.
Oh my god! I just need it to not be him getting caught by Superman, and then we see Superman's face, and he's like got this shit-eating grin on. Like, please, no shit-eating grin. Anything but that, okay?
But no, I think it's just him flying.
Yeah, I don't think that whole scene necessarily means he's like trying to like ask for Superman's help. I think he's almost like in Spider-Man: Homecoming when he's like, "Come on, Spider-Man, come on, Spider-Man." Like it's more of like he's trying to motivate himself to do something or to get himself to fly.
Hopefully.
I don't know. We'll see. I mean, David S. Sandberg. I think I wouldn't. So far from what I've seen from David Sandberg, I would trust him with Superman for a cameo. Like, he seems like he's respecting enough of the lore in the movie that I think he would treat him well.
Yeah, I mean, he also has a lot of Watchmen references in there too, with the smiley faces.
I guess, yeah. Well, speaking of David S. Sandberg, me and him had a brief interaction on Instagram earlier this week.
Really?
See, you're so famous.
I mean, I've interacted with Zach, I've interacted with Larry Flong, I've interacted with David F. Sandberg, I've interacted with the guy who plays Rorschach in Watchmen. Abdul Mateen plays Black Manta. Me and him had a conversation at Comic-Con.
Okay, just go off then.
I was in Gal Gadot's Instagram video from Comic-Con last year.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Next thing you're gonna say you went on a dinner date with Patrick Wilson.
Oh God.
If you say you went on a dinner date with Patrick Wilson, I'm going off.
Nah, it was Amber Heard. Just kidding.
Oh, Nick, why don't you just share your address with me? I want to meet, hang out. I'll bring my baseball bat, but don't worry, it's just for show.
Well, it's a good thing my apartment has gates, so. Yeah, I'm obviously I'm like rubbing it in a little bit, but like I am really humbled the fact that I've even had these interactions with these people, especially Zach. Like, I mean, I've had like a couple of interactions with Zach. Like we had like a brief conversation about his gym once, and then like this year he actually wished me a happy birthday because I asked him to. But still, like obviously, you guys follow me on Twitter. Zach saying happy birthday is still my header. So.
Yeah.
What did Dave say?
Well, one thing that does kind of suck, though, is like being a writer for Comic Book Debate, Zach follows so many of the writers except me. I mean, obviously he doesn't follow everyone, but like, granted, because I don't really write about the DCEU on the site because they already the site already has a bunch of DCEU writers. So I usually stick with like DC TV and stuff, so I don't really write about it. But still, like I'd be like, Zach, like you can follow me too. Like I post some cool stuff. Yeah, I mean maybe he'll follow me eventually, but we'll see.
Yeah. So, like, what about David Sandberg or something?
Oh well, no, because he posted that image on Instagram and Twitter, but it was the image of like the Trinity shot from BV. It wasn't the Trinity shot. It was like the promo Trinity image of Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman with bubblegum with the bubblegum out of their mouth, with Shazam in the background doing the same thing. And then I commented saying like, well, at least this is an image that won't get taken out of context so people can shit on you. And then he was like, well, let's see. So that was our brief.
Oh, that was you.
Yeah, who'd you think that was?
I didn't say that it was you, like.
Well, I literally said that this happened, and it says my name on it.
But it... I mean... That's...
Oh, man.
Yeah, but I think but here's the thing. I don't think anything beats Katie winning the BVS reference event and getting that box of stuff from Zach.
Oh yeah, yeah, that was so lucky.
Like,
yeah.
I'm still so happy for her, and of course we all miss her. But Katie's been really busy with like her family life and stuff, and she's I mean, also in general she has still been pretty soured in the DCEU. So like that's one of the reasons why she hasn't been here in a while. But hopefully we'll get on her soon. Maybe after she sees Aquaman and likes it, hopefully we'll have her back on. But if you guys are maybe wondering what happened to Katie, she's just busy, and yeah. and that's the thing too. Like obviously, like not everyone's here today. We're all extremely busy, which is why we haven't had like a proper episode in like 2 months. And I feel so bad because I wanted to do the Bitter Geeks podcast at least like once a month. We've only had one episode up, and that was in July. I've been wanting to do a part 2 to finish up Joss's Wonder Woman script, which we have not done yet.
Yeah, it's just been really busy. You know, we've had a lot of people doing a lot of things, and unfortunately, some things don't always pan out like they can. But you know, we're still here. We're still doing our podcast. We're still, you know, letting people know that we're still doing our thing. So, you know, it makes up for it.
Well, hopefully, because I know a lot of people like there's been quite a few people lately asking what's going on with the podcast and like where are we? And I'm like, we aren't going anywhere. We're just busy with our lives. We're sorry.
We have social lives.
I know. Like unless someone wants to pay us all to do this podcast full time, it's going to be very hard for us to do this regularly. which if someone wants to do that for us and make us do this full time, hey, I'm not complaining.
I mean, we're just saying.
And sponsorships.
I mean, hey, Zach, if you ever want to you know, hire us so we can just talk about your movies, like, we could do that too.
You know, nudge, nudge, wink, wink.
Yeah, I don't think Zach has ever listened to an episode of this. But it's funny because like I'll get like some people like who like are like fairly like big in the DCEU family who like I don't usually interact with, who like know the podcast and know about the podcast. I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool. Like, because I know obviously like we have like fans and we have listeners, but like I'm always humbled by that kind of stuff. I'm like, oh, like I'm a huge fan of the podcast and stuff, and I'm like, you listen to our podcast? Because still, like, it's one of those things where like I feel like a lot of the times it's just us as like friends talking, and I forget that we actually have people who like regularly listen to us.
Yeah, but I think that's the best thing about this podcast.
Yeah, because I created this as a space to like, because honestly, I didn't know a lot of you guys when I first obviously brought you on first to the podcast. Like, I didn't know Artyom very well. I didn't know like Lily. I knew Katie for a while, like on Tumblr, and like we did our commentaries and stuff together. But like I didn't really know you guys very well. But like I've actually known to grow and know you guys pretty well now, and it's because of the podcast. And that's one of the reasons why I did this to begin with, because I wanted to grow closer to the fandom and have a place where we can just talk about the movies and stuff. Because I feel like there aren't very many DCEU centric podcasts out there.
Yeah, there is.
Who talk about the films the way we do. You know?
Yeah, they're hatred-centric DCU podcasts, but not positive ones.
I mean, granted, there are some people who like have like DC-centric podcasts that talk about the DCU sometimes, and like, I don't really interact with many of those people, but like, they exist. But as far as like straight up DCEU content, like, I feel like we're like one of the few, if not the only one. I know there's like the Suicide Squad cast and other people there and stuff. But like, I feel like we're like the only ones who like exclusively only talk about the DCEU. Well, at least aim to talk about the DCEU anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah. So just to everyone who's listening, like we really appreciate you guys doing this and listening to us all the time, because we do this because we want to just talk about these movies, and we're so happy that we have so many people who regularly listen to us and who send us all these kind messages and stuff on Twitter and Tumblr and stuff. We really appreciate it, and we're really forever grateful for you guys, so thank you. Seriously.
Mm-hmm.
So I think with that being said, unless you guys had anything else you guys wanted to say, probably call it a day.
Yeah, I guess we can call it a day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All
I
right.
had something I was thinking about, but I forgot.
Yeah, I was mostly excited to talk about what Zack Snyder was recently posting, and the whole Jason Momoa mentioned Zack and Snyder Cut. And we covered this pretty much, so
yeah,
I think it's done.
Yeah, and of course we'll do another podcast once we've all seen Aquaman, so we can go into full spoilers and everything about the movie. Because as of right now, it's only Artyom and Fatma who have seen it, so like obviously they aren't going to spoil the movie for us. At least hopefully won't spoil the movie.
I am very excited for all of you to see Aquaman. You're gonna love it, I'm sure.
Okay, again, like, it makes me so much happier. It makes me that much more excited. So, next time you guys hear from us, will probably be that review. Fatma and I will be doing another video in the next couple of days, so she can give her thoughts on the movie before we all do it together. So you guys definitely check that out. You definitely keep posted on our on the YouTube channel and our Twitters and Tumblr feeds for the next episode, so that way you guys can know when it's coming. So again, thank you guys for listening. So if each of you guys here want to go around and tell everyone where they can find you online.
Yeah, you can go.
You can find me as Greg on Wow on Tumblr.
You can find me as Speed of the Oppressed on Tumblr and Owlspeed on Instagram.
And I'm Endeavor Network on Tumblr.
Alright, and then of course you guys can find me here at Nerdy Neck on YouTube, True Man of Steel on Twitter. You can find me at TrueManOfSteel _ on Twitter. Yeah, so you guys, thank you guys for listening, and thank you guys here today. It was a lot of fun. I'll talk to you guys soon. Can't wait to talk about Aquaman with you guys. So I'll talk to you guys soon. And thank you again for listening, guys. If you guys like what you see or listen to here, hit the subscribe button for all the other content we do on this channel, whether it is the DC Films Podcast, Bitter Geeks Podcast, or the trailer reaction and reviews where I talk about all of these films. Thank you guys so much for listening, and until next time, have a good one.